Welcome back to the Whisper Knows. This is the place where stories don't scream, they whisper. Tonight's question is simple, and once you hear it, you won't be able to unhear it.
What if it's true that mirrors remember what they see? Not just faces, not just movements, but moments. The ones that happen when no one is watching. The ones we pretend never happened. The ones we don't even remember ourselves. What if mirrors don't forget, even after you leave the room? You've looked into mirrors your entire life. Every morning, every night, every time you needed reassurance that you were still you. And yet, you've never asked a mirror a single question. You assume it's empty, lifeless, just glass and silver. But mirrors were never meant to be blank. Long before electric lights, mirrors were feared, covered during deaths, turned away during sleep, hidden from the dying. Not for superstition, but because people believed mirrors could trap what they reflected. And once something is trapped, it doesn't like to stay silent. The house on Graywood Street had been empty for 11 years. No fire, no crime scene tape, no official explanation. People simply stopped living there. When Elias moved in, he didn't know that. All he saw was cheap rent, quiet neighbors, and a house that felt patient, waiting. The mirror in the hallway was the first thing he noticed. Tall, framed in dark wood, slightly warped as if the glass had sagged over time. It reflected him perfectly, too perfectly, even when the lights were off. The first time Elias felt something was wrong, it wasn't dramatic. No shadows moving, no whispers, no cold hands. It was smaller. He walked past the hallway mirror on his way to the kitchen and saw himself pause, but he hadn't. In the reflection, his head tilted just slightly. His eyes lingered on the glass. In real life, he kept walking. He laughed it off. Mirrors play tricks, angles distort, fatigue lies. But that night, when he brushed his teeth, the bathroom mirror did something worse. It blinked, half a second after he did.
Elias started researching. Late at night, lights dimmed, laptop glowing. Old texts spoke of mirrors as witnesses, not passive ones. They absorb repetition, emotion, fear. Every argument shouted in front of them, every tear wiped away, every moment of violence reflected in their surface. They don't judge, they archive. And according to one obscure source, when mirrors are old enough, they stop reflecting the present and begin replaying the past. Elias noticed the scratches on the hallway mirror on the fifth night. Thin lines, jagged from the inside, like fingernails dragged across glass. He touched the surface, smooth, unbroken, but the scratches were still there in the reflection. That night, he dreamed of someone standing in the hallway, facing the mirror, scratching, crying, begging something to let them out. On the seventh night, Elias tested it. He stood in front of the mirror and didn't move. The reflection did. It smiled, slowly, not wide, not exaggerated, just enough to be wrong. Elias stepped back. The reflection didn't. It leaned closer, as if the glass were thinning, as if the distance between them had become negotiable.
Elias finally spoke to a neighbor, an old woman across the street. She listened quietly when he mentioned the mirror. Then she said something that made his stomach tighten. "There were mirrors in every room," she whispered. "They took them all out, except that one." He asked why. She shook her head. Because that mirror had already seen too much. The whispers began softly. Not voices, more like memory leaking. Sounds of footsteps that didn't match his own. Breathing behind him when he stood alone. The faint sound of someone saying his name in his own voice. Every mirror in the house started to reflect him differently. Older, tired, afraid. As if each one remembered a different version of him, or worse, a different person entirely. One morning, Elias woke to find words written across the hallway mirror. Not etched, not written, reflected. "You saw it too." He didn't remember seeing anything, but the mirror did, and now it wanted him to remember. Mirrors don't create monsters, they preserve them. Every scream, every act of cruelty, every moment someone thought no one was watching, all stored, waiting. And Elias finally understood something terrifying. The mirror wasn't copying him, it was replacing him with whoever had stood there before. That night, Elias covered the hallway mirror. The house fell silent. No whispers, no movement, just relief. Until he realized the mirror in his bedroom was uncovered and it was already smiling. Elias tried not to look. That's the rule, right? If you don't see it, it can't touch you. But the bedroom mirror was positioned perfectly, angled toward the bed, catching the faint glow of the streetlight outside. He lay there with his back to it, eyes open, listening to the house settle. Then he heard it, a soft sound, like a fingertip tapping glass. Tick, tick, tick. He turned. The mirror reflected the room exactly, except the bed. In the reflection, the bed was empty. Elias sat up so fast his spine cracked. The reflection lagged behind him by a breath, like a delayed stream. Then it caught up, and the person sitting up in the mirror was not quite him. Same face, same hair, same eyes, but the expression was different. Not fear, recognition, like it had been waiting to see him finally look. Elias grabbed his laptop again, hands shaking so hard he mistyped everything. He found an old forum thread half buried under broken links and dead images, posted by someone with a username like a warning, Glass Witness. The post listed rules people shared like urban legends. Don't sleep facing a mirror. Don't leave a mirror uncovered in an empty room. Don't stare too long or you'll see what it remembers. And never, ever ask it to show you. Because mirrors don't imagine, they replay. And if what they replay is strong enough, it becomes present again. A comment below the post stood out, newer than the rest. Just one line. If you think it's reflecting you, you're already late. The next day, Elias did something he'd avoided. He moved the hallway mirror. It was heavier than it should have been. Not heavy like wood, heavy like something living inside it. As he pulled it away from the wall, a dry sound came from behind it, paper scraping plaster. There was something taped to the back. A photograph. Old, faded, curled at the corners. It showed the hallway, the same mirror, the same wall, but the photo's edges were stained dark, like it had been soaked. And in the reflection of the mirror in the photo, there were two people standing behind the photographer. One was a man, tall, tense, eyes wide with that frozen panic you only see when someone realizes they are being watched. The other was blurred, not out of focus, blurred like motion, like it couldn't sit still inside the glass. On the back of the photograph, written in careful handwriting, "If you see it move, cover it. If you hear it speak, run. Nora D." Elias swallowed, throat tight. Nora, a name, a person, a witness, a victim, or the last one who tried to warn the next.
Elias did the stupid thing, the human thing. He wanted to know. He carried the photo to the kitchen and placed it on the counter. Then he stood in front of the hallway mirror and forced himself to look. He stared at the glass and said, barely above a whisper, "Show me." At first, nothing changed. Then the air thickened. The hallway seemed to darken inside the mirror, like the reflection was sinking into a deeper hour than the house around him. And then a figure appeared behind him. In the reflection only, a woman. Her hair was pulled back, her face was pale, her eyes were swollen from crying. She stood in the hallway like she'd been standing there for days. Elias spun around. No one. Back to the mirror. The woman was still there. She lifted her hand, trembling, and pressed her palm to the glass from the inside. Her mouth moved. No sound came out, but Elias understood her anyway, like the mirror translated the memory straight into his bones. Don't let it learn your face. Then the woman turned her head slightly, as if hearing something behind her. Her expression collapsed into terror, and something stepped into frame. Not fully, just enough. A shape taller than her, wrongly proportioned. Its limbs seemed to bend in places they shouldn't. Its face was a smear of light and shadow, like someone tried to erase it but couldn't. The woman screamed. Still no sound in the room, but the mirror vibrated violently, as if it couldn't contain the moment. Then the reflection snapped back to normal. Elias was alone again, except his own reflection was breathing hard, half a second before he was. That night, Elias covered every mirror in the house. Towels, blankets, sheets. He taped fabric to glass. He pushed furniture in front of frames. He didn't care how insane it looked. The house became strangely dull without reflections, like removing mirrors removed depth, removed certainty. Corners felt closer, hallways seemed longer. The air felt thick, like it had been waiting for this silence. Elias slept in the living room, where he could see all covered shapes at once. At 3:07 a.m., he woke to a sound he'd never heard before, a whisper from behind cloth, not muffled, clear, as if the fabric wasn't there, as if the sound came from inside his skull. It said, "Elias." His stomach dropped. He didn't answer. The whisper repeated, but softer, more intimate. "Elias,
"You asked me to show you." His mouth went dry. He stared at the covered hallway mirror. The cloth over it was moving, not swaying, not falling, moving like something was pressing from inside, exploring the edges, testing the barrier. Then the cloth bulged outward in the shape of a hand, 5 fingers pressed against fabric from the wrong side. Elias crawled backward, heart hammering. The hand withdrew, and then the whisper came again. "Do you want to see the rest?"
Elias left the house at dawn, eyes burning from lack of sleep. He drove to the county records office. He searched addresses, tenants, ownership. The woman at the desk gave him the file like it was something she wanted out of her hands. There had been a woman named Nora Delaney who lived at Graywood Street 11 years ago. She'd filed multiple complaints, disturbances, audio recorded in her home, claims of a second presence visible in mirrors. No arrests, no evidence. Then she vanished. Officially, missing. Unofficially, the neighbors said she left without leaving. Elias asked if anyone else lived there. The woman hesitated, then slid a second paper forward. A man before Nora, a man named Harlan Voss, declared deceased in the house. Cause of death, undetermined. Because the body didn't look like it had died from injury. It looked like it had died from being emptied, like something had scooped the life out of him and left the shell. There was one last note in the file, a line from an officer. Mirrors in the home were covered on entry. Elias sat back, covered, not by police, by someone who knew, someone who tried, someone who didn't succeed.
Elias returned home because he had no choice. You can't run from a place that knows your face. He entered the hallway slowly. The house felt awake now, like it had been waiting for him to bring the truth back inside. He stood before the hallway mirror, still covered. His hands trembled as he gripped the cloth. The whisper came again, gentle as breath. "I remember you now." Elias yanked the cloth off. The reflection showed the hallway. Then it shifted, like a reel clicking into place. He wasn't looking at his house anymore. He was looking at a memory. The hallway looked older, different wallpaper, different lighting, a different time pressed into the same space. And there she was, Nora, standing exactly where Elias stood now. Her eyes locked onto the mirror, onto him, like she could see across time. Her mouth moved, and this time the mirror gave sound, a thin, distant audio recording voice. Nora said, "If you're seeing this, it's already learned you." Behind her, the lights flickered. Something moved in the reflection behind her shoulder, an outline that didn't match any human geometry. Nora's voice shook. "It doesn't live in the mirror. The mirror is just where it stores us." She turned, gesturing wildly at the hallway, as if pointing out something invisible. "It watches you your whole life, every time you glance into glass, every time you check if you're still you. It collects you in pieces, expressions, angles, reactions." Her eyes filled with tears. "And when it has enough?" Nora stepped closer to the mirror. Her palm touched the glass. "It makes a copy." A shadow moved behind her in the memory. The shape taller now, clearer, wrongly stretched like it was built from reflections that didn't belong together. Nora whispered, "It takes the parts it likes." Her voice broke, "And it leaves the rest behind." Suddenly, Nora's head snapped to the side, like something grabbed her hair. She screamed. The audio distorted. The mirror vibrated violently.
And then the playback did something it hadn't done before. It paused. Nora was frozen, mouth open, eyes wide, mid-scream. And the reflection changed. Not the memory, the mirror's surface. It cleared, like the glass was switching feeds. Elias saw himself standing there again, except there were fingerprints on the inside of the mirror, pressed from within. And behind his reflection, in the hallway, stood Nora, alive, not in the memory, in the present. Her eyes were hollow with exhaustion, skin pale, hair tangled. She looked like she'd been standing behind glass for 11 years. She lifted her hand slowly and pressed her palm against the glass from the inside. Her lips formed one word: run. Elias stepped back, and his reflection didn't. His reflection stayed close to the glass, smiling. Then it raised its hand, matching Nora's handprint from the other side, palm to palm, as if sealing a deal.
Elias turned to sprint down the hallway, but the lights died. Darkness swallowed the house. In the black, the mirror glowed faintly, an underwater sheen. Elias felt the air change behind him, like a door opening. Not a door in the wall, a door in reality. The attic mirror whispered one last time, not his name, not Nora's, something else, a phrase that sounded like an instruction, like a lock turning. Then Elias felt hands on his shoulders, cold hands, many hands, not gripping, guiding. He fought, twisting, reaching for anything, a wall, a doorknob, the edge of a rug. His fingers found the mirror frame, wood, then glass. But it wasn't solid, it yielded like skin. Elias screamed as the surface pulled at him, drinking him in. He saw flashes, hundreds of faces, reflections stacked behind reflections, people staring from inside, eyes wide, mouths open, soundless. Among them, Harlan Voss, his face pale, vacant, like a mannequin that had once been alive. And Nora, still there, still pressing her palm against the inside, trying to push outward, trying to stop it. But Elias was sliding through. The world became silver, then black, then light.
Morning. Sunlight spilled into the hallway. The mirror reflected everything cleanly. The house was quiet. Elias stood in front of the hallway mirror, breathing steadily. Normal, calm. He blinked. The reflection blinked perfectly with him. He smiled softly, relieved. Then he heard a faint sound from somewhere behind the walls, a muffled tapping, like a fingertip against glass. Tick, tick, tick. Elias tilted his head, listening. His smile faded, but not in the mirror. In the mirror, his smile widened, not in joy, in satisfaction. He walked into the kitchen and poured coffee like he'd lived there forever. Then he paused, staring at the dark window above the sink. The glass caught his reflection faintly, and in that faint reflection, behind his own face, were dozens of faces, watching, waiting, remembering.
Later that evening, someone walked by the house on Graywood Street. A delivery driver, a neighbor, a curious stranger. They glanced at the hallway mirror through the front window, and for a moment, they saw a man standing inside, still, smiling, watching them back. And if they looked closely, just long enough to feel that uncomfortable pull, they might notice something etched in the glass, subtle as a breath. A new line, a new memory. You saw it too. This has been the Whisper Knows. And tonight, if you pass a mirror, don't just check your face. Ask yourself something else. When you walked away, did your reflection leave with you? Because mirrors remember what they see, and sometimes they learn how to keep it.
Subscribe if you dare to listen.